Hey everyone and welcome back to a new video. So while the spotlight in Warhammer 40k has been on the Space Wolves rather recently, the march of the Imperial and Chaos Knights can now be heard off in the distance, and we've had a brand new reveal for the Imperial Knights, which I'm going to talk about in this video, and a little bit about when we can expect to see the releases for the Imperial and Chaos Knights. But let's jump straight in. This is the Knight Defender, the model reveal for the Imperial Knights. There may be something else we see nearer to release, but this I think is probably the main, if not the only release we'll see for Imperial Knights coming with their new 10th edition codex. And it is very different, I think, to anything we've seen in the Imperial Knight range before. It currently is built off the Questoris pattern Knight. It's very familiar to those of you who have seen Imperial Knights, collect them. It's going to fit right at home with an Imperial Knight army. But the thing that's different about it is kind of the lore and the background of the model. It's designed to, and we hear this in the Warhammer community article, it's designed to kind of be the walking bunker, the Bastion Knight that kind of takes all the hits. If you think of like an RPG 5-man party, this is the tank unit. It's designed to sit there and just weather the storm while the other supporting knights get into position and take on the enemy in the way that they prefer. And it's able to do this thanks to a void shield generator that it's got on top of its chassis. Now, I'm not familiar with Imperial Knights as they play in Warhammer 40k, and not certainly in 10th edition, but the idea of mixing void shields and Imperial Knights to me sounds pretty exhausting as a player who might have to face these, because Knights are already incredibly resilient models. They're some of the most resilient models in the game. Having one that's got void shields and thereby replenishing wounds, I presume, puts it on the level of like smaller Warhound Titans, I think, at least. I might be horrendously wrong. Let me know in the comment section if you've got any knowledge about how void shields typically work in smaller games of Warhammer 40k. We're not playing Adeptus Titanicus after all. But in any case, we have a void shield equipped knight entering 10th edition 40k, which I think is certainly going to shake up how knights play, and certainly maybe some of the unit options we as players who may have to face knights have to pick, because it's going to take a lot to bring something like this down, in my view. But it's not just the powerful void shields this thing is equipped with. It also has some pretty dangerous weapons. We've got the Blazing Plasma Executor on one arm and a Conversion Beam Obliterator on the other arm. Now, again, we don't know the stats for this specific weapon, and I can't necessarily recall any parallels to draw on. But in my mind, those are probably point, click, and delete style weapons. I can't imagine there are many things that can take probably even just one hit from one of those weapons, let alone a directed firing from the Knight Defender. So this Knight overall is not just incredibly resilient, it's pretty dangerous in its own right. And I think this is going to be an insta pickup for many Knight players, and particularly people who are now thinking about supplementing an Imperial army with some Imperial Knights. I was thinking of supplementing my Iron Hands with Imperial Knight, just because I didn't really want to pick up a whole new army of Imperial Knights in and of themselves. I've been looking for a Knight unit to kind of match up with my Space Marine force. This might well be it, because it really does look like to be the MVP of the Knight range at the moment. Certainly, perhaps for the points range it's likely to be, because again, given it's based on the Questoris pattern, it should hopefully be cheaper than some of the bigger Knights you see in the range. So that's the model itself. It looks really cool, some really exciting stuff, and the reaction from the community has been really positive. But of course, a lot of focus is now on when the Codex is coming out. We've seen the front cover for Imperial Knights. It looks really cool. I love some of this artwork. I still find it a bit odd that some of the Codex's intent have older artwork and some of them have new artwork. I'm interested in sort of the rationale behind that. But needless to say, this is a really cool piece of art. I'm really looking forward to seeing the Chaos Knight artwork, because that is going to be really grimdark, 40k, grizzled, horrifying, futuresque scene. So yeah, I'd really love to actually get an art print of these at some point. So I'll have to check the art store for Warhammer 40k. But that's all we know. This is what the Codex looks like. We haven't seen anything from Chaos Knights. And then when it comes to the release date for these particular factions, We've still got a few more factions to go. We've got obviously the Space Wolves to come out. I think we've got some updates for Salamanders and Imperial Fists, if I'm not mistaken, on the way. Grey Knights obviously need to come out. And you may have noticed that Games Workshop has had certainly recently a quiet week in terms of pre-releases. I think they're struggling a bit with the flow, the cadence of releases. So I suspect we may be waiting at least a month, possibly even 2, before we get pre-orders on the new Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights codex and models. We'll see what's coming out for Chaos Knights before then, but I do think the release is probably a month or 2 off at the least. And you can see that actually in the store, because on the Imperial Knights front, because they're reboxing, this new Defender means they're going to rebox how Imperial and Chaos Knights come together, because they typically share the same sprues with kind of extras on top. So the Knight Castellan and the Knight Valiant are currently out of stock, I presume due to supply, but the other knights outside of the War Dogs just aren't listed here anymore. You've got obviously the Knight Acherons and things like that, the more specialized knights, but the kind of standard vanilla knights, if you could call them that, are currently unavailable on the store. You can't buy them because they're being reboxed, and same with Chaos Knights. You can buy basically War Dogs and some of the Forge World kits, but that's about it. So if you're looking to start a new knight army or get ready for this codex or both codexes, you're going to be waiting a little while unless you can find something on eBay or in a sort of secondary retailer. So yeah, that's the Knight Defender. I think one of the coolest knights we've got at the moment. I'm really excited to see what Chaos have, because some people have been saying this is a ripe opportunity to bring in like a Psychic Knight onto the tabletop. They've got a Psychic Titan in the lore, so maybe a Psychic Knight could come in, and to me that feels like a great move for Chaos, where all their warpy stuff can come into play, but we'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, let me know in the comment section what you think of the Knight Defender. Are you thinking of picking it up, like me, supplementing an existing Imperial force with it, or are you just keen to see what comes out from the Imperial Knights in the rules and how they play on the tabletop? And same for Chaos Knights too. Let me know in the comment section. But as always, a big thank you for joining me today. If you liked the video, like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. But until then, take care.